Christmas morning, 1962. You tore through the wrapping paper, and there it was. Not a screen, not a device, just a simple toy that would keep you busy for hours, days, maybe even years. A hula hoop, a Slinky, a board game with a worn box that had been taped back together more times than anyone could count. These weren't high-tech. They didn't light up or make sounds or connect to anything. They were just toys. Simple, physical, real. And somehow, they gave you everything you needed. If you grew up in the 1950s, 60s, or early 70s, you remember these toys. Not because they were expensive or fancy, but because of what happened when you played with them. The hours that disappeared, the friends who showed up, the imagination that took over when there was nothing else to do but play. Today, on a merry retro, we're going back to those playrooms, those living room floors, those rainy afternoons when a simple toy was all it took to make the day feel full. These are the toys and games that shaped us, and they were more than we realized. Let's start with the hula hoop. Summer, 1958. Every kid on the block had one. Bright plastic circles in red, blue, yellow. You'd step inside, give it a spin, and try to keep it going. Hips swiveling, arms out for balance. At first it dropped every time. Hit the ground with that hollow plastic clatter. Pick it up, try again, drop, try again. And then, suddenly, you got it. The hoop stayed up. Your hips found the rhythm. Kids competed. Who could keep it up the longest? Who could do it with 2 hoops? The hula hoop taught you persistence. That failing over and over was just part of learning. And when you finally got it, the victory was yours alone. Then there was the Slinky. A simple metal coil that walked downstairs. That's it. That was the whole toy. But you could watch it for hours. You'd set it at the top of the stairs, give it a nudge, and it would flip, end over end, down each step. Metallic clinks echoing through the house. When it reached the bottom, you'd run down, pick it up, and do it again. Sometimes it got tangled. Those coils twisted into knots that seemed impossible to fix. You'd sit on the floor, carefully pulling and stretching, trying to get it back to normal. The Slinky taught patience. It taught you to slow down, to watch, to appreciate something simple moving in a way that felt almost magical. Mr. Potato Head arrived in the early 1950s, and suddenly your vegetables had faces. You'd dump the pieces out on the table. Plastic eyes, ears, noses, mouths, hats, arms, and you'd stick them into a real potato, or later the plastic body they gave you. Every face was different. Silly, weird, sometimes a little creepy. You'd make one version, laugh, pull the pieces off, and start over. There were no rules, no right way, just endless combinations and endless possibilities. Mr. Potato Head taught kids that creating something didn't have to be serious. It could be goofy, experimental, fun. And when the pieces got lost, because they always did, you'd improvise, use a carrot, use a marker, make it work. Barbie changed everything in 1959. She wasn't a baby doll. She was a grown woman. She had clothes, jobs, a car, a dream house. Girls spent hours dressing her, undressing her, creating stories. Barbie was a teacher one day, a doctor the next. She went on dates, she had adventures. She was whoever you needed her to be. The clothes were tiny, intricate, snaps and zippers that required patience and small fingers, shoes that always got lost under the couch. But that didn't matter, because Barbie wasn't about perfection. She was about imagination, about creating a world that felt bigger than your bedroom. And when your brother's G.I. Joe showed up, suddenly Barbie had a new storyline. Action, drama, adventure. G.I. Joe, arrived in 1964, and boys finally had a doll they could admit to playing with. He wasn't a doll. He was an action figure. He had uniforms, weapons, vehicles, a whole world built around him. You'd set up missions, rescue operations, battles in the backyard. G.I. Joe climbed trees, hid in bushes, parachuted off the porch. He got dirty. His uniform ripped. His arm came loose and had to be snapped back in. But that was part of it. G.I. Joe was tough. He could take it, and so could you. Playing with G.I. Joe taught boys to create narratives, to problem solve, to build worlds where anything was possible. And when you lost his tiny rifle in the grass, you didn't give up. You just gave him a stick and kept going. Board games were different. They required other people. Monopoly could last for hours, days even. You'd set up the board, pick your piece, the car, the dog, the top hat, and start moving around, buying properties, collecting rent, trying not to land on Boardwalk when your sister owned it. Arguments happened. "You owe me $500. "No, I don't." "Yes, you do. You landed on my hotel." Someone always flipped the board. Someone always accused someone else of cheating. Someone always quit halfway through. But you'd set it up again the next weekend. Because Monopoly wasn't just a game. It was a reason to sit together, to compete, to negotiate, to learn that sometimes you lose, and that's okay. Clue made you a detective. Colonel Mustard, Miss Scarlet, Professor Plum, the candlestick, the library, the conservatory. You moved through the mansion, making accusations, gathering clues, trying to figure out who killed Mr. Body. Every game was different. Every solution was a mystery. Clue taught logic, deduction, strategy, and it taught you to pay attention, because if you weren't watching what others were asking, you'd miss the answer. When you finally solved it, you felt smart, accomplished, like you'd cracked something important. For younger kids, there was Candyland. No reading required. No strategy. Just colors and a winding path through a magical world of candy. You drew a card, moved your piece, drew another, moved again. Sometimes you got stuck in the molasses swamp. Sometimes you jumped ahead to the gumdrop mountains. Candyland taught kids how to take turns, how to wait, how to handle disappointment when someone else won, and it taught parents patience. Because playing Candyland for the 100th time required love. Jacks was simple. A small rubber ball, 10 metal jacks, a smooth floor. You'd bounce the ball, scoop up jacks, catch the ball before it bounced twice. 1 jack, then 2, then 3. The rhythm built. Your hand got faster. Girls played jacks on sidewalks, in driveways, on kitchen floors, competitive, focused, proud when they got all 10 in one swoop. Jacks taught hand-eye coordination, timing, patience, and when a jack rolled under the couch, you'd get down on your stomach and fish it out, because you needed all 10. The game didn't work without them. Lincoln Logs let you build. Small, notched wooden logs that fit together to make cabins, fences, towers. You'd dump them out, smell that faint woody scent, and start stacking. Creating. Building something from nothing. Sometimes you followed the instructions, sometimes you didn't. Sometimes you just built whatever came to mind. Lincoln Logs taught spatial reasoning, problem solving, creativity, and when your little sister knocked over your masterpiece, you'd get mad. But then you'd rebuild. Because building was the best part anyway. The Etch-a-Sketch arrived in 1960, and suddenly you could draw without paper. 2 knobs, one for horizontal lines, one for vertical. You twisted and turned, trying to create something recognizable. Circles were nearly impossible. Curves took forever. But straight lines? You could make those all day. And when you were done, or when you messed up, you just shook it, and the screen went gray again. Clean slate, fresh start. The Etch-a-Sketch taught patience, precision, and it taught you that mistakes weren't permanent. You could always start over. So what made these toys special? They weren't flashy. They didn't require batteries or updates. They didn't beep or buzz or connect to the internet. They were simple, physical, real, and they required something from you. Imagination, effort, patience, creativity. You couldn't just watch them. You had to play with them, engage with them, figure them out. And in doing that, you learned. You learned persistence from the hula hoop that kept falling. You learned patience from the Slinky that got tangled. You learned creativity from Mr. Potato Head's endless faces. You learned competition from Monopoly, logic from Clue, cooperation from playing with friends. These toys didn't entertain you, they challenged you. And that made all the difference. Today, toys are different. Screens, apps, instant gratification. And that's fine. Technology has its place. But something's been lost. The waiting, the figuring out, the boredom that turned into creativity because you had to make your own fun. Kids today don't play with a Slinky for hours. They don't spend all afternoon building Lincoln log cabins. They don't argue over Monopoly because they're too busy on separate devices. And maybe that's why these old toys still matter. Not because they were better, but because of what they required. Presence, imagination, patience, the willingness to play with something simple and find joy in it anyway. Before you go, I want to hear from you. What toy do you remember most? The one you played with until it broke? The one you begged for at Christmas? The one that's still somewhere in your parents' attic waiting? Share your memory in the comments. Because these toys weren't just plastic and metal, they were childhood. And that's worth remembering.
If this brought something back for you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to A Merry Retro. This channel is about the simple things that made life full. And we're keeping those memories alive, together.